The flower fairy was devastated by the dragon king's words. She had never meant to harm anyone, and she felt hurt by the king's harsh words. In tears, she fled from the castle, running as fast as her legs could carry her. Yn burst through the castle gates and into the open air. She started running. She left the Ice Kingdom behind and then collapsed onto the ground. The flower fairy came to a dense forest, where the trees loomed dark and forbidding. The ground was covered in a blanket of sparkling white snow, and the moon shone brightly overhead. The flower fairy was trembling in the cold, and wept, her tears mingling with the petals of the flowers around her. She had never felt so scared or alone in all her life. But as she sat there, sobbing in the moonlight, a voice spoke from the darkness. "Pals, looks like we found our dinner tonight." Yn looked up to see a wolf pack standing before her, their face hidden in shadow. She trembled in fear when they started walking close to her. "There's so many and almost as big as dragon." Their shadow fall on her small, trembling figure. Yn gulp and crawl back. "Smells delicious," one wolf said. They started circling around her. Yn understood they'll jump on her now, their eyes gleaming with hunger and malice. One wolf jumped on Yn, she screamed and quickly tied its mouth, making herbage. The wolf was taken aback a little, but it doesn't take him seconds to tear the delicate plant. Yn get up from the ground with her trembling legs and tried to run, but the wolves were everywhere. Terrified, the flower fairy tried to use her magic to fend off the wolves, but her powers were weakened by her fear and despair. The wolves lunged at her, snapping their jaws and tearing at her white dress. Desperate, the flower fairy conjured up a thick tangle of vines and branches to try and bind the wolves, but the creatures were too fierce and too hungry to be stopped. She fell in a heap on the cold, snowy ground. Yn closed her eyes, and tears come out from the corner of her eyes, ready to see her end. As the wolves closed in, ready to attack, a sudden burst of flames lit up the forest. Yn opened her eyes and looked up, hearing a loud, familiar roar. The Dragon King had come to the flower fairy's rescue, his scales gleaming in the moonlight, his eyes fierce and determined. "Taehyung, leave her, you foul beasts," the Dragon King roared, his voice shaking the earth, his scales gleaming in the moonlight as he unleashed his fiery breath upon the wolves, scorching their fur and fangs. The wolves howled in pain and fury, but the Dragon King was relentless. He fought with all his strength and power, driving the wolves back and saving the flower fairy from certain death. The wolves howled in pain as they were consumed by the Dragon King's flames, but there were too many of them for him to defeat alone. Two wolves crept up behind Taehyung, their fangs bared and their hackles raised. Yn knew that she had to do something to help the Dragon King. Taehyung. With all the strength she had left, she screamed his name, willing him to turn and see the danger. Taehyung spun around just in time to see the two wolves leaping at him. With a roar of defiance, he lashed out with his claws, slicing through the wolves' fur and flesh. The wolves howled in pain, but the Dragon King's injuries slowed him down, and the other wolves took advantage of his distraction. The flower fairy knew that she had to act quickly. Summoning all her magic, she created a barrier of thorns and brambles to keep the wolves at bay. The wolves snarled and scratched at the barrier, but they could not break through. With a final burst of energy, the Dragon King unleashed a wave of flames that engulfed the remaining wolves, incinerating them in a blaze of fire. The forest was quiet once more, save for the crackling of the embers and the soft sobs of the flower fairy. Taehyung came to his normal form and staggered over Yn. His arms were bleeding, his eyes filled with pain. He reached out a bloody hand to help her up. "Yn, thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, tears streaming down her cheeks, her heart full of gratitude and sorrow. Taehyung forwarded a red-hooded cape to Yn and spoke. "Taehyung, wear this. I borrowed it from the Snow Queen for you." Just then, Yn realized she's trembling and cold. She quickly wear the cape. Her heart melted realizing how caring he is. But her heart aches seeing him injured. "Yn, you're bleeding." Taehyung doesn't reply. He started walking somewhere. Yn followed him. Taehyung stopped in front of a cave. He went inside the cave and laid down. "Yn, you need to treat your wounds." "Taehyung, I will be fine till morning." but Yn knows his injuries are deep. She needs to clean it. Yn gathered some dry sticks and tried to make fire using the stones. She kept trying and trying but couldn't even success to make a small flame. Taehyung was watching her. He sighed and blow little fire from his mouth to the gathered sticks. The sticks lit up, making the dark cave bright. Yn, you could have do this before. She get up and was about to walk out from the cave when Taehyung asked, Taehyung, where are you going? Yn, I saw a river outside. I'm going to bring water. Taehyung, if the wolves tried to eat you again, I will not go to rescue you anymore. Yn roll her eyes and walk out from the cave. After some times she come back holding a leaf with her both hands. She bring water in the leaf. The flower fairy sit in front of Taehyung's laying figure and dip her handkerchief in the water. Yn placed the handkerchief in his wound, when Taehyung groaned very loudly in pain. Yn flinched badly. After few seconds, she again placed the hanky in his wound. Taehyung again groaned. Taehyung, it hurts, he shouted. Yn, if you held still it wouldn't hurt as much. Taehyung, if you hadn't run away none of this would have happened. Yn, if you hadn't frightened me I wouldn't have run away. Taehyung, you should stop being crybaby. Yn, well you should learn to control your temper. Taehyung let out small flame from his nose in anger and turned his head to other side. Yn placed the wet hanky on his wound again, but this time Taehyung doesn't said anything. He was silently laying there. Yn cleaned his wounds and backed away from him. Yn, try to get some rest, she said softly and sit on a corner of the cave. The next morning, they went to search for the elf reindeer. Yn, are you sure you're fine now? Taehyung, I am the Dragon King. I can heal easily. Yn, your wound still looks fresh. I think it's hurting. Taehyung, shut up and find the reindeer. I have to go back to my kingdom. Yn, I think I should call him. Mr. Elf Reindeer, are you there? Are you listening to me? I'm Yn the flower fairy. I need your help. Taehyung yawned and looked around. He is hungry. He need to eat something. Taehyung started looking for a prey. His sharp eyes stopped in a particular place. He saw a rabbit is hiding there. Taehyung smirk and mumble, Taehyung, breakfast. He carefully bent down a little and was about to attack on the rabbit when a big snowball hit the back of his head. The rabbit run away. Taehyung groaned in anger and looked back at Yn, who's staring at him with her sharp eyes. Her hands are resting on her waist. Yn, don't you dare to do anything to the innocent rabbit. Taehyung, I am hungry. Yn, eat the morning mist. It's yummy. Taehyung, I think I should eat you first. Yn make another snowball and throw it to Taehyung. It directly hit his face. Taehyung, you. He make a giant snowball and aim it to Yn. The flower fairy widened her eyes seeing the giant snowball. Yn, no don't. She tried to run away, but failed. The giant snowball landed on her. Yn stumble and fall backwards into the white sheet of soft snow. Taehyung smirk, feeling satisfied. Yn remove her hair from her face laying on the snow. She looked up at the clear blue sky above her, feeling the cold flakes melt on her cheeks. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her, blocking her view of the sky. Yn looked up to see a majestic elf reindeer leaning down towards her, its silver antlers glistening in the sunlight. Her lips parted a little. Excitement bubbled up inside her as she realized that they had finally found the creature they had been searching for. Taehyung was also staring at the unique creature. Yn jumped up and sit on her knees. She spoke. Yn, please, kind reindeer, can you show us the way to the Cloud Kingdom? She asked eagerly, her eyes shining with hope. The elf reindeer nodded solemnly and beckoned for them to follow. Yn started following the reindeer, but Taehyung was standing on the same place thinking how this weird thing will take them to the Cloud Kingdom. Yn noticed Taehyung isn't coming with them. She run back to Taehyung and hold his hand before dragging him along with her. With graceful strides, the elf reindeer led them deeper into the forest until they reached a clearing where a shimmering rainbow stairs appeared before them. Yn looked at the elf reindeer. Yn, Will this rainbow stairs take us to the Cloud Kingdom? The reindeer nodded his head. Y or N, thank you, dear elf reindeer, for showing us the way to Cloud Kingdom, she said gratefully, her heart full of joy. The elf reindeer bowed its head in acknowledgement before disappearing into the mist. Wire N and Taehyung looked at each other before they stepped onto the rainbow stair, feeling the vibrant colors swirl around them as they ascended into the sky. The air grew colder and thinner as they climbed higher and higher, until finally, they emerged into the magnificent realm of the Cloud Kingdom. As they finally reached the Cloud Kingdom, they were met with a dazzling array of colors and sparkling dust. The sky was a brilliant canvas of pastel hues, dotted with fluffy white clouds that seemed to dance and twirl in the breeze. Yn felt a sense of peace wash over her as she gazed out at the ethereal beauty surrounding her. She turned to Taehyung, her eyes shining with gratitude. Yn, let's find my wings and save the dragons, she said, determination blazing in her gaze. Yn's wings shimmered in the distance, caught in a whirlwind of magic. Her eyes shined with tears after seeing her wings after years. With a determined gleam in her eyes, Yn ran towards her wings. But Taehyung found it fishy cause how can her wings just be here? Who keep this here? Is it a trap? And why this Cloud Kingdom is so quiet? Who lives here? Lots of questions started roaming around his head when Yn happily tried to touch her wings. Suddenly Taehyung noticed something. Taehyung, watch out, he shouted, but before Yn could understand anything, a swarm of black butterflies descended upon her, their wings as dark as the night. Yn cried out in terror as the butterflies surrounded her, their razor-sharp wings slicing through the air with deadly precision. Taehyung roared in anger, unleashing a torrent of flames that engulfed the creatures in a blazing inferno. As the last of the butterflies fell to the ground, Yn collapsed in Taehyung's arms, her body racked with pain from the poisonous stings of the creatures. Taehyung's heart clenched in fear as he saw her pale and weakened form, her delicate wings trampled beneath the fallen creatures. With gentle hands, Taehyung carried Yn to the big crystal castle. The castle is empty and silent. Taehyung walked towards a room and made Yn laid down on the bed. He tended to her wounds with care and tenderness. As the time passed, Taehyung noticed Yn's skin is turning blue. He need to do something to remove the poison from her body, but he have no idea how heal to it. Yn is half unconscious. She opened her heavy eyelids only to see Taehyung sitting next to her. At the end of the night, Taehyung dozed off. He saw he's following the reindeer carrying Yn in his arms. The reindeer stop in front of a lake. Taehyung make Yn drink water from that lake. He quickly opened his eyes and look at Yn. Taehyung, I get it. I need to find the lake. He carried Yn in his arms and walk out from the castle. After searching for some time, Taehyung found the lake. He make Yn drink water from there and take her back to the castle. As time passed, Yn grew stronger and healthier under Taehyung's watchful eye, her gratitude blossoming into a deep and abiding love for the Dragon King. Yn, let's get my wings back. Taehyung, you're looking stronger now. Yn, thanks to you. With a determined gleam in her eyes, Yn flew towards her wings, the Dragon King at her side. In a fierce battle against the forces of the Cloud Kingdom, Flower Fairy and the Dragon King fought bravely to reclaim her stolen wings. With a final burst of strength, they emerged victorious and retrieved the wings, which fluttered back to Yn and attached themselves to her back. She beamed with joy, her eyes shining with gratitude. Yn fly and spin around the sky. Her delicate wings shimmered in every color of the rainbow. Taehyung marveled and mesmerized at the sight.Yn's wings were more beautiful than he had imagined, glowing with a magical light that seemed to fill the entire sky. She flew back to Taehyung with a smile. Yn, thank you, she said softly. I couldn't have done it without you. The Dragon King felt a swell of pride in his chest. He may have been a fierce and mighty ruler, but in that moment, he realized that helping others could be just as rewarding. Taehyung, should we go back now? Yn nodded her head. Her eyes are still filled with tears of happiness. As they soared through the skies on Taehyung's massive wings, Yen felt a strange fluttering in her chest whenever she looked at the fearsome Dragon King. She had always been drawn to his dark and mysterious aura, but now, as they flew side by side, she felt something more, a deep longing that she had never experienced before. As she and Taehyung made their way back to the Dragon Kingdom, Yen knew that she had found not only her wings, but also her true love. Theodora looked at the mirror and flinched seeing her own reflection. Her wrinkles are showing. She quickly cast a spell and make her skin young and beautiful again. Theodora, no, this can't be happen. The flower fairy found her true love. I need to do something to separate them. In the magic land, a helpless, desperate parents are sitting in front of the king and the crown prince. They are the flower fairy's parents. Father, your highness saved my daughter from the Dragon King. Mother, her 20th birthday is near. She need to marry the crown prince before it. The crown prince Jeon Jungkook is silently listening to them. She will bring his soon-to-be bride back from the Dragon King before her 20th birthday.